All right, let's now take a look at a code implementation regarding the character RNN that we talked about in the previous video. So in the previous video, I gave you some overview of the LSTM and the LSTM cell. And I prepared two notebooks. One is based on using, I can maybe just scroll down for now, on using the LSTM class, and one is based on using the LSTM cell class. Personally, I think for this type of model, it makes more sense to use the LSTM cell. It's a little bit, I think, more intuitive. So going back to what I talked about in the previous video. So here that's the LSTM cell class, and we will only consider one layer. I mean, we can easily extend it for multiple layers, but we will only have one layer. So let's blend that part out. And we will essentially, so if you consider this part, we will receive one initial hidden state and one initial cell state together with that input token, like this. So it will receive one input token, hidden state, cell state, and then produce one output. And this output will go to a fully connected layer to do the character prediction. Then we will move to the next input. So here, the next input, it will receive the hidden state from the previous time step and the cell state from the previous time step together with a new character. And then it will produce again an output that goes to a fully connected layer to predict the next character. And then we will go on. Here again, it will receive the hidden state and the cell state from the previous time step, the current time step input, output something, and so forth. So that's how the LSTM cell class works. All right, but before we get to this part, the LSTM cell class, let's start at the top. Let me even, because it's quite fast to run, let me even run this from scratch. We haven't done this in a long time. All right, so, from scratch, I mean by executing it as we go here. So we start by by just importing some libraries. So here I didn't use any helper files. I tried to keep everything in the notebook because the code here is relatively short and simple. So here I have some hyperparameters like the text portion size. So how long a typical text portion is, the number of iterations for training. So here we don't use epochs, we just use iterations. Learning rate, the size of the embedding, and the size of the hidden layer. Okay, let's execute that. So I'm running this on a CPU. I actually had problems running this on the GPU. I think there's a bug in PyTorch. So it runs fine on the CPU, but on the GPU, it will restart the kernel. And if I run this in my terminal without Jupyter Notebook, it gives a segmentation fault. And my suspicion is that it's a bug in PyTorch, and or it's maybe related to the fact that it's loading the data too fast, and there's some, it's trying to access some memory in the GPU that is not free yet. So actually this shouldn't happen. So I believe there's a bug somewhere. But anyways, it's quite fast, so we can run this on the CPU. Okay, so we use this as our character set from the string Python library. So string is like standard library in Python for string related things, and we will use all printable characters, so a bunch of them. Actually, how many are there? Let's see, 100. So we will use the set of 100 printable characters, so numbers, lowercase, uppercase letters, and special characters. So actually, so we will use is the data set the COVID-19 FAQ from the University of Wisconsin website. I went actually to that website and extracted all the FAQ questions here. So as you can see, there was a lot of text. So I just copied everything into a text file. So this is our training set. It's all COVID-19 related questions on our university website. Okay, so here I'm just opening and loading the text file. So in total we have 84,000 characters in our text file. It's like a small book, almost. Okay. So here I have a function for getting a random portion of the text of size text length. So where do I have this? Text portion, sorry. My text portion size 200. So it gets text of the portion size 200 from the whole text here randomly. So this will be our training batch. Okay, so this is a random portion, so you can see some letters are chopped off, but for our simple case here, it's good enough. So again, this is not perfect. So you may, in a real world application, you maybe want to implement the function that it has like complete sentences or something like that. To just keep things simple, this is just a simple function, just getting 200 characters at a time. Then I have a function converting the characters here to tensors. So here, this is just getting the index for the characters. So if we have 100 characters, it gets the index, right? So A would be index 10 and so forth. So it's converting the strings into numbers that we can work with in PyTorch. And this is putting those things together. So this is for drawing a random sample for training. So this is just getting a random text portion in string format. This is for converting a string to integers, and this does both. It's getting the random portion, right? Converts that into integers, and then it also gets our labels. So the labels are the inputs shifted by one character, because here our task is to predict the next character in the sequence, right? So if I do that and draw my random sample, so my random samples are 0, 94, 24, and so forth. And you can see the target is shifted just by 1, right? Because if we are here and we want to predict the next character is 94. And from here, the next character is 24 and so forth in integer representation. So this is our batch of features. And this is these are our labels. Okay, so here's now our RNN implementation. So I just have something to keep track of the hidden size. This is our embedding layer that goes from the integer, the character integer, to the embedding vector, a real value vector of size, of size 100. And the hidden dimension is 128. Okay, so we have the embedding size, and then the LSTM cell takes vectors of size 128 and has a hidden size of 100 and has a hidden size of 128. So if I go back to my slides, maybe using this representation here. So our text, we had here a one-hot encoding. This is when we want to compute the loss. We use actually just an integer here. So here this would be the integer 2, the integer 0, and integer 1 if you look at this here, right? So this one in this figure would correspond to an S, for example. And then the embedding layer will output 100 dimensional vector, and the hidden layer will be a 128 dimensional vector. So let's see how we use that actually in the forward pass. So in the forward pass, we first put the character through the embedding. So this will be accepting batch size embedding dimensionality. We use only one character at a time. So it will be 1 times the embedding dimensionality, which is in our case 100. Then we give to the RNN, which is an LSTM cell, we give the embedded vector, which is the 1 times 100, together with a hidden state and the cell state from the previous iteration. So this, if we are here, essentially, or maybe we use the other representation again. So if we are, let's say at the first step here, so we are currently running here this RNN. It will get the hidden state and the cell state from the previous iteration. This is these two. and these we provide them via by the forward pass as input. So these will go into this one, and these will return a new set of hidden and cell states. So here, these are the inputs, and then they return these outputs here, these two, for the next round. And then this is computing our logits for the softmax, for the cross entropy loss. So this one output here, this is essentially this one through a fully connected layer. So this will be, maybe it's clearer like this. So this will be like this. So we'll be giving us one output, where here we have a fully connected layer in between. It gives us one output. Okay, and we return the output because we use it for computing the loss, and also when we want to take a look at the text so that we can generate some text, the next character. And then also when we want to generate text, of course, we have to feed the output back into the input. So if I go back, there are too many slides here. When I go back here, this visualization, this is for training, but for generating text, we feed the output here. So we get this input, produce an output, and the output gets fed to the next time step as input so that we can generate new text. Yeah, anything else? Yeah, just the dimensionality for reference. Anything else? This is not right here. I think this should be definitely not this one. It should be the number of characters. But here I said hidden state, output size should be yeah, the output size. Fix this. Okay. Yeah, and then so we one more thing. We have this initialization of the zero state. So here we have to start somewhere, right? So if I go back to my visualization here, so let me get rid of one of those. So here we don't have initial input. The input is here, so we have to have some zero state here, and this is here my zeros, just some initial state. Okay, and all right, then let's get started. So actually the output size, I should mention, this is the same size as the input size. Yeah, so let's initialize the RNN. So as input size is the length of the number of characters, it's 100. So the output size would be also 100. And in between we have the embedding and hidden dimensions. I'm using Atom, just simpler. Here's an evaluation function. Let me get to the evaluation function in a second. Let me first run this, then run this. I can already execute this, but I will talk about this after talking about the main training loop, because the evaluation function here, it's actually used, where is it used? Here. So it's just one tiny part of the training function. So let's talk about the big picture training function first. So I'm just iterating 5,000 times, 5,000 steps. Then I have my initialization here. So this is for initializing my zero state. So this is for initializing here these initial states. I can actually make this bigger, right? So this is for initializing these zero states here. This is for each iteration. So each iteration will go through one text portion of size 200. So for each text portion, we initialize it as 0. This is our beginning of the text. What we do is we set the loss to 0. Draw a random sample. So again, the random sample will be like this, just some text, some random text portion. and the target's shifted by one value here. We put it on the GPU. In our case, nothing happens because we used the CPU. Then for each character in the text portion size, this is where we do the step putting it through the model. So here, this is just for making the dimensionality right, because this is just one single value, but as you recall, we want batch size times 1, so it should be a 2D tensor. So we are doing unsqueeze, adding empty dimension. We provide the hidden from here, the cell state from here, these initial cell states. So in the first round, these will be the initial ones, but then we are also outputting them, right? So it will feed right back. So in the next iteration, these will be used from the previous iteration. So it will feed right back. And we are computing the loss. We are just adding the loss here. So we are computing the loss between the outputs and the targets, one at a time. And then we just normalize by the text portion size. So we have it's just the average, the mean over the batch size, if you will, because we add, let's say, 200 losses, and then we divide by 200, just averaging. That's just so that works better with a learning rate. So we can change the text portion sizes and shouldn't have to worry about changing the learning rate. Then we call backward, make a step, an update step, and that is it. So here we just have some logging and some more logging. It will create a PDF with a plot, the loss plot, so we can take a look at it during training. There's also a tool called TensorBoard, which is actually pretty useful, but we already have so many things to talk about and code examples and everything. I don't want to make it more complicated, so we're just using Matplotlib here. But yeah, one last interesting part before I run this is the evaluation function. So instead of just printing out the loss, in addition to that, I'm also evaluating the model. So what do I mean by that? I'm letting it generate text. So let's take a look. This is my evaluation function. So we initialize it to the 0 state. Then we build up some hidden state. We are priming this essentially. So what that means is we are providing some prime character. This is like some starting character here. Placeholder is A. I actually use TH. So all texts will start with TH that we are generating. It's just, it's arbitrary, could be anything. So all texts will start with TH. And then here we're priming it. We are building up some hidden states so that the model stabilizes. So we are doing this for the letters in this prime range. So we only have 2 letters, right? We can have actually more. We can have some real words. This builds up our cell state. So it's just essentially running, in this case, through 2 of these, right? 1, 2, and then we get to this part. And for each in the prediction length, we are generating text of size 100. We are just running it as before. So again, there's nothing special here. It's just running the model similar to how we run it in the training loop. The new part now, though, is this part. So here, I could have also actually written it simpler like this. Diff is just a division. So we're dividing by a temperature. So what is the temperature? So first of all, outputs are our logits. So if we go back to our model here, these are just here. We don't use any softmax because the softmax is usually used in a cross entropy function. So here we have just our logits. And then we compute, we are not really computing the softmax. There's a normalization factor in the softmax, right? So we are usually normalizing by the sum of all of these for each class. Here we are lazy, we don't do that. We just take e to the power of, so essentially it's e to the power of logits divided by the temperature. And the higher the temperature is, so maybe the other way around. If I have logits and I have a small number, like the temperature is usually a value between 0 and 1. And I should say, what's the temperature here? This is like, I think it's inspired by energy-based models, but which is in turn inspired by the Boltzmann distribution. But it's essentially how sharp our distribution is in this case. So if we have a small value here, like 0.1, all the values will become larger. Here, so we will get larger values. If we have a value 1.0, they will be softer. So we have here, this the real main interesting part, we will here have this multinomial function, which is essentially a function that randomly samples from a multinomial distribution using these, you can think of them as weights or probabilities. And this is our the number of samples we draw. So here we're drawing one character from the predictions. So outputs will be the logits for all 100 characters, because we have 100 different characters. So logits will be all values. If we have softmax, these would be all the probabilities corresponding to these characters. And here we are randomly sampling. So if we expectation would be sampling the character. Also, we would most often sample the character corresponding to the highest probability, and we can soften this by having a 1.0. This is the standard setting. Temperature of 1.0 is if we use no temperature. This would be our regular values, but if we use a smaller value, let's say 0.1, this will be a sharper distribution. So the character with the highest value will be sampled more often, so even more often. So we can actually set the temperature very, very small, and then it will essentially be like not sampling at all. It will always sample the character with the highest probability. In that way, it's more like deterministic. So you can think of it like that. The higher the temperature, the more diversity in the output in the generated text you will get. So if you want to have more diverse text, you can lower the temperature. It's kind of, you can increase the temperature. If you want to have no randomness, you lower the temperature. Higher temperature means more diversity. You can think of it also as kind of like heat in a biological system, where if you heat up the system, you have more kinetic energy. Everything is more like wiggling around and things like that. So here we have like 0.8. It's like a trade-off, but it's a hyperparameter. If you have higher temperature, there will be more mistakes, but also more diverse text. It's like a trade-off. Okay, you can play around with that if you like when you do the training, but let's just use the ones that I used to begin with. So it's running now, it gets a pretty high loss, and this is the initial text. Notice that it starts with a TH, but the rest is like giblet gok. There's nothing reasonable in here, it's just some arbitrary text. But yeah, it already finished the next iteration. Let's take a look at that. Still not anything useful. You can see it learned something, right? So you can see, okay, this is an actual word here. So it's learning something. Let's take a look at the next one. Oh, okay, we have some real words here. Kind of learning something. You can see students. So again, this is trained on the COVID FAQ, which is mostly readable text. Okay, so yeah, it's getting a little bit better. I mean, of course, this is like not real text. It's not a very sophisticated RNN. It's just one layer, very simple, very small text. Also, I mean, it just learned for 1 minute, right? So, but you can see that it actually seems to learn something. If you think about it, started from this, then went to this, and now it's kind of talking about Safer Badger's app notification system. So it's kind of learning things, right? Wisconsin COVID-19 testing. Yeah, we'll have to run way longer to get some sensible inputs. Again, there are also many hyperparameters to tune. You can have more layers. You can change the temperature and these types of things to get better results. But I feel like, I mean, given that I'm on the CPU, just running it for 2 minutes, it's quite cool that it can, can create text that is not total nonsense. I mean, it's total nonsense to be honest, but we can identify individual words, so that's actually quite cool. Okay, so let me stop it right here. It was a long video, and in the next video we will take a next step, talking about how we can outfit RNNs with the so-called attention mechanism.